You're here because I'm assuming your aim sucks. Just joking. Aiming in Call of Duty is hard. From Warzone to multiplayer to rank play, sometimes people just can't grasp how to aim in Call of Duty. So how is it that most professional players have the best aim in the world? Knock out people like it's nothing. Make your favorite streamer look like they're goofy. You look at players like Dashy, aiming away and not missing a single bullet, to then players like Shotzi who just are ridiculously jumping over, climbing, dodging bullets, and still hitting every single shot. And then a question pops up in your head and you're like, how is this possible? After spending multiple years of competing, I've received hundreds of comments and having an insane aim like a pro. And now today, even when I'm making content, I receive comments left and right about people thinking I have a no extra recoil addition. Today, I'm going to share you my tips when aiming and making this list of tips to improve your aim and hopefully help you guys become a bit better at Call of Duty itself. Just like you shouldn't be skipping leg day in the gym, you really need to stop spawning up in ranked and thinking that your shot is just going to be like that. First things first is how to warm up correctly in Call of Duty. You need to spend 10 minutes minimum every single time you hop on is going into firing range. So today I'm going to show you exactly what I do in between matches to make sure and you stay focused on your aim. I used to do this especially when I used to compete on just accident, but do you see this cursor that's kind of like following as I'm guiding it along? Kind of mess around and go for this guy to this guy. You see how it's kind of snapping on? Oh, here's my controller. I hope you guys can see this, but see, you see like how it's kind of staying locked in when I'm moving my left stick. I'm not doing anything with my right stick, but now when I'm moving my right stick, it kind of slows down when it's right here, and it's, you see how it's dragging, and then when you go faster, it slows down when you start going over this operator. And the second thing I would recommend is to just kind of snap and flick. A lot of the nasty 3 pieces and 4 pieces is basically my reaction time. The problems is that most of you guys have when you're aiming is that you're standing stationary and you're not expecting the second or the third guy. I kind of just aim in and kind of like flick right, left, right, kind of snapping out. Look at something randomly, like, oh, look at that tank. Look at that red box right there. Really realized it until I was watching someone else's video. It is basically a good way to just kind of flicking and aiming like, hey, my eyes are kind of looking at this MCW in the top right, so let me just aim in at it. I think a lot of things that people miss is the recoil pattern on the gun. So for example, look at this. This is the recoil pattern of a Rival 9, literally a snake. And all I'm doing is literally just standing stationary. I'm not jumping, I'm not slide canceling. But the biggest thing, my tip for when you're shooting bots is keeping your right stick down when you're shooting this guy. It's just basic recoil control when shooting bots or shooting guys in game. A lot of time, this is what you guys are doing. Oh my god, my Rival 9 shot's going all over the place. And it's, no, you don't understand recoil pattern control. And this is all I'm doing. And this is why people are probably like, this guy's using a Cronus. The next principle is my favorite thing is just to add a little bit things to help your mobility in game. Your slide canceling, going this and that, going up and down, up and down. If I'm jumping in game, whether it be side to side like this or up and down like this. Let's kind of just work on just jumping and shooting at the same time. And see, I've been doing this for a very long time, but for some of you guys really don't add jumping and sliding or even drop shotting that makes a huge difference into your gameplay. If you practice this, what I'm doing right here, it's gonna make a huge effort. Now, obviously you shouldn't be jumping at someone that's like all the way back there. Maybe just kind of like look away and then turn around and then flick, right? Do that again, kind of turn right and look right and flick. Angle, if you really want to do this, 90 degree or 180, and you're gonna just do this, snap. This is what truly makes you from a really average rank player to really good player. And you can see just my aim is basically warmed up now. Now it's locked in. I mean, look at that. Okay, we're not gonna talk about that a lot. And the most important thing to add it to this is centering. This is why pre-aiming is so important when you're running around, is pre-aiming like this allows you to basically work on your shot. Now, I had a question, do I look at the iron sight on this gun while shooting, or do I just necessarily look at the bot? More so I'm looking at the bot, but oftentimes when I'm sitting in a very locked in position on the hard point, then I might be looking at the red dot. Look at it, I'm just focusing on my laser. Do you see that? Like, I'm not missing on my iron sight right now. These are the things, the finest things that you really need to cut down in detail to when you're playing this game. Now, when I'm looking at the bot, there's really not much of a difference, but it's up to you what you tend to prefer. I would probably just say, to make it easier, just look at the person like you guys are probably normally doing. But when you're holding a lot of greater positions when playing Call of Duty, strongly suggest maybe start looking at the iron sight of your gun. Fine. I'll finally show my Cronus. I mean, my controller settings that can possibly help you guys have better aim in Call of Duty. The most important thing is to make sure that you're playing playing on a proper sensitivity. It's why oftentimes 6.6 and 7.7 is the best balance for you guys to have that perfect set, have the perfect feel in game. So if you're still playing on like anything above like 9 to 10 or anything higher, then that's probably why you're missing your bullets in a lot of shots when you're playing. So here are my controller settings. So these are my dead zone setting, minimum, right stick. These are basic settings that basically are adjusted for my controller. And this right here is my horizontal and vertical stick sensitivity. A lot of pros play from 6 to 8 range, and sometimes people like Octane and a lot of AR players tend to play 5 or maybe even smaller to 4. On top of that, you really need to make sure your aim response curve type is on dynamic. This really just aims for you. But dynamic, what it allows you to do is basically once you start getting snappier and snappier onto your aim, hitting your shots, and you're kind of controlling it, sometimes it really does aim for you and lock onto it. And make sure to have target aim assist on, aim assist type, default, a field of view. For what I've seen, a lot of assault rifle players tend to play on 97 to 100. Some do play on 105. And so the best range for field of view is probably from 100 to 105. And you guys can play around with that. I play on 110 just because I'm a crackhead. I like the addiction. I used to play on 120 FOV, and it's one of the biggest mistakes because this is not Warzone. So one of the first things we're going to enter in is latency, your equipment. Latency is everything in gaming because it allows you to react. Oftentimes when I ask most of my IRL friends and some of my other friends that I played multiplayer online, you'd assume that they probably had a great monitor, a great console, PC, whatever it may be, and a great controller. But then you'd find out later on this guy's playing on 60-inch TV, the other guy's playing on a controller that's been out there for 8 years long. You see what I mean? So for example, my monitor is a 144 hertz monitor, 1 millisecond, allowing me to obviously react at the best reactional times possible. Now with PC gaming, especially in Call of Duty, you can obviously get a better monitor at 280 hertz. So as you guys can see on this website that I use, you can see this is my Asus monitor right here. But with gaming, just like everything, you really need this upgrading things. This is allowing me to see pictures faster. So when it comes to aiming in Call of Duty, you're snapping onto people, you're flicking onto people, and obviously playing a Call of Duty reactional first-person shooter game, you really should not be playing on a 60-inch TV and having a huge, massive 40 input delay millisecond for you to be basically dragging at the sensitivity of a one sensitivity player, especially with your controller right here. As you guys can see, it's wired to have one of the best aims in Call of Duty. You're on PC, you need to overclock your controller. You're gonna make this a PS4 controller that has an average millisecond delay of 5 and overclock it to 1 millisecond. On top of that, you can obviously overclock your things in your PC. Then I would strongly suggest maybe reaching out to BR Paradox or FPS Hub that can definitely optimize your PC based on your setting and any questions that you guys can have, so you guys obviously get the better FPS, better latency, and having your PC working at the finest optimal level that you guys can be playing at. So when playing Call of Duty and just any video game itself, oftentimes when you play Valorant, Fortnite, Warzone, that gaming just kind of gets a little bit boring. And what do I mean by that? It's like scrolling on TikTok. You continuously scroll, and then you look at the clock, and then it's like 2 hours have just flown by. We get addicted, we get glued into something, and we don't even realize that we're just bored and we're just swiping or just being on autopilot. Have you ever played ranked, for example, and you were frying, you were literally playing the best games in the world for the first 2 hours? You would think playing Call of Duty for like longer, 4 hours to 5 hours, that your aim would get the greatest, but that's not the case. And that's why you often see many of your favorite streamers on ranked or your content creators literally continuously warming up in the firing range when they can, because you never know when that one bad game can happen. And that's why it's very important to keep yourself focused as much as possible. Why do you think you hear it all the time? Players itself will say lock in. It's just that key phrase that basically come across your brain, get it configured to basically stay focused. And another thing to add on to that, loss of paying attention to playing Call of Duty when it's just based on your aim or your movement, and it just becomes clunky, right? And guess when that happens? There's different periods of time for a lot of people. For example, when you first get on, your aim's kind of like until it takes you a couple 4 or 5 games to finally get that aim tuned down to your comfortability. Little things that can help with reaction time in your aim is oftentimes when you come home and you kind of just off a huge day of work, and it's like, and you are so tired to exhausted that it takes you a while to finally get generated to basically moving around the map like you should be. You're still eating crap loads of garbage, sugary food, and some of you people don't realize that when you're eating garbage food like that, greasy food, obviously you eat it, and then you're just sitting there going like, man, do I feel slow? Yeah, I wonder why. And also make sure to drink your water. Like I said, playing games, you become on autopilot mode and you forget what's going on, time flows by, and you realize, wow, I haven't eaten a meal in 4. Maybe just take a 10-minute break, especially when you're losing focus. For example, when it affects your aim and you start missing all these shots, it's not because of of your controller, and it's not because of your PC. It's just because of you kind of losing track of what's going on. These are all my aiming rituals and training things that I do ever since I started playing from a very young point. So I hope this helped you out. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.